The point behind today was for me to have a nice conversation interview with this lovely Anna David here. She's got an amazing background, author of 8 books, 3 TED Talks, 2 podcasts. I mean, I thought I was busy until I met Anna, but she's not very good at recording podcasts, it seems, because we did a podcast a few weeks ago where I was being questioned, and unfortunately, the sound quality didn't come through so great. So this is going to be quite unique and interesting because we're actually going to kind of interview each other and answer each other and have a conversation because we both agree on many things. We're aligned in many things in terms of entrepreneurship and failing is essential. So your book is actually called How to Get Successful by Effing Up Your Life.
That was a big debate is, do you put a star over the U? Do you say how to get successful by screwing up your life? There were long debates, but books with the F word in the title, ooh, did they have a phase of doing well? That Mark Manson book,
Yeah.
The Serious Art of Not Giving an F.
Yeah.
By the way, we can swear on my podcast. I don't know about your listeners, but my listeners are down with the F word.
So when you said this is me going into interview mode, so I can get my
Yes.
questions in quickly, but when you said that at the time, is it if you had to do the book again right now and come up with a title, would you still choose the same title?
I would, because the title is so epic. But it is the thing about book publishing when you're chasing book sales. Movie industry is a lot like this too. You kind of go, whoa, that just really succeeded. That's what's working now. And by the time you do it, because you've seen it succeeding, it's probably, quote, not working anymore. One of my books
Yeah.
was this book called Falling for Me, Failing for Me. And HarperCollins gave me the deal, and they said, the Year in a Life books are doing so well because there was Eat, Pray, Love, there was Julie and Julia, there were all these books where you did something for a year and you chronicled it. By the time Falling for, so it was me taking this book, Sex and the Single Girl by Helen Gurley Brown, which came out in 1965, I believe. And I took everything that she said women should do in the 60s and tried it in 2007, 2008, and documented my life for a year. By the time it came out, Year in the Life books, nobody cared anymore. So that's my whole philosophy around book publishing now is you cannot chase book sales and success. You care more about 100 of the right people reading it than 10,000 of people who will forget about your book the next day. So long answer to your question.
No, but at least, it wasn't just a temperamental or a timely title. It's something
No.
that you.
Oh, it's something I have effed up my life over and over again and inadvertently become successful. Do you relate to that?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, everything is a journey, right?
Yeah.
And we are only who we are because of the journey that we've taken, successful or failure. I mean,
Yep.
as we both agree, the learning is in the failing. No one learns from getting it right all the time. It's almost like a broader span of your wings in terms of the direction. So instead of you maybe just succeeding at this level, it succeeds at a wider level. So you almost have the ability to collect more. If let's say it's business, it's revenue, it's exposure, it's data, whatever it is. I think because of the failure, it almost it's like when something splits and goes off.
Like an
It
atom or something.
yeah, exactly. And it splits and goes off. So like the splitting is like the failure. And then it becomes you've got 2 powers and then something else happens, and then it becomes 4 and then it multiplies.
Oh, I love this. This may be a little
I've
bit
I've never
beyond.
thought of that before.
Yeah,
This
I
should
think
be
it
on the
might
next
be
book.
this might be genius. It's a little beyond my pay grade in terms of the scientific aspect. I, failed freshman biology my senior year in high school, but okay, so I like this idea.
The atom of success.
So you fail at something. By failing at something, so this concept is it splits something in two so that you then pursue other angles. Explain.
Because whenever and I had something recently with work that almost kind of made me feel as though the business was at risk. Okay. And it was a big jutter, and it was like, wow, this is a big shakeup. I thought it was going at 100 mile an hour and everything's going amazing, and then curveball comes in the side, and it's like, whoa, as entrepreneurs, we're always playing offense, right? We don't really play defense at all. But in that scenario, for me, I was in defense thinking, what if, and family, I've got kids and blah, blah, blah. What it enabled me to do, and just before we press record, we were talking about, I was going to share with you a document. I'm part of this course in the US called Strategic Coach. One of the tools that Strategic Coach get you to do is that when you do go through this, it's called an experience transformer. So when you do go through this, what you would deem a negative situation, you fill out this form that enables you to pull out all of the key ingredients, the nutrients of the situation. When I filled that out after, and it took 2-3 days of me going through this, oh my God, why me in this situation? And, the almost, victim mentality that it's normal that we get, right? Because we're humans.
Yeah.
But then I filled out this form and I was going through it and I sat down and I was like, and it was a bit of an aha moment. And as a result of it, I was like, well, I now have 2 new people that I can bring into the business that I didn't have because of this. I now have additional streams of revenue that I can bring in. I had weaknesses in the business that I wasn't aware of. And now I found who's around me that not only will they come in and kind of plug the holes in the boat that I didn't realize I had when the water was leaking, but now it accelerates and propels the business up even more. So it's like, I'm actually grateful that this happened. And I would have, if someone said to me, James, a week into the future, you're going to be at this situation now where you're going to be armed up and more prepared to propel the business even stronger into the future, I would have paid for that.
Right.
I would have actually paid to be equipped to be in that situation in a week's time. And this happened for free.
You did pay, though. You paid through
Yeah.
something far more than money, which was suffering. I'm imagining whatever this was, you suffered when it happened. And I think this is the key to all of it is attitude. I've talked about this before, but basically, I've been fired from every job I've ever had. There have been firings where I kicked and I screamed and I talked about lawsuits and you know what? Things stayed pretty bad afterwards. And there have been firings where I said, you know what? I think there's something better for me. And almost immediately something better came along. So the universe feels our energy. When we're in surrender, when we're in, okay, I am open to the learning here. I have faith this is for the best. That's when that happens. But I can tell you, it's taken me 6 days to learn a lesson and it's taken me 6 years to learn another lesson. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think that the 6-year one, do you think that it had to take 6 years to learn that because of the situation, or could you think that could have been fast track earlier?
I think it could have. I like to not live with regrets, but I think it could have been faster. I think everything is about surrender. I think everything is about faith that everything's happening the way it's meant to be happening. My first sentence, if my parents are to be believed, was "It's not fair." So I think I went around the world going, "It's not fair. This isn't fair. This isn't fair." And if you've got that coming out of your mouth, you're not really going to be in a place of learning from your failures, right?
Yeah.
So have you had failures where the lesson where you didn't surrender quite so quickly as you did this last time?
Yeah. And I just released a podcast on this the other day. It was about self-talk. But the first time we did our podcast a month ago or so, where you was interviewing me about what was the biggest failure in learning. It was a business that I had a few years ago. It was like a sideline business. And at the time it happened, I'd put a lot of heart and soul and money into the business. The team around me basically picked up the business and took it away from me. And everything I do is built on trust and, alignment. And they took it like a week before my son was born. So I was kind of like, it was at a really dark, it became a really dark moment, which should have been a beautiful moment. So there was a lot of emotions and highs and lows. It was already kind of like getting away from me. And a couple of people that I opened up to, and one of them was through the strategic coach, and they even said a year before it happened, walk away. This is not your key business. This is not something you're passionate about. If this is probably going to happen, get out now. Thank the people, because again, there's learning in this, and walk away. And I held on for a year, and it made it so much more painful. But actually, I'm glad I did hold on for another year because there was even more learning from it. So it goes back again. I wouldn't turn back the clocks. If anything, now I know what I know in terms of, as long as it's not something like I've got a terminal illness or the people around me that I care dearly about have terminal illness, which maybe we can't do anything about that. But I almost have this mentality now, bring it on, hit me as hard as you've got, because the harder it is, the more I'm going to lift up and rise from it. But it's interesting because I didn't realize subconsciously I was going around telling people when I opened up to certain people about this story, I was saying how I've been screwed over. And my self-talk was really negative about the situation. And I was talking to a group of friends about, we was opening up about our timeline and how things have evolved as an entrepreneur. And there was a couple of these situations. They said, "Oh, that's interesting. You've been screwed over quite a bit." And as I was driving home, and this was what the podcast was about the other day that I did about self-talk, because I was saying that our own self-talk has a profound effect on our future results, on our physiology and everything that is about us, right? Me going around in my mind thinking, "Oh, I got screwed over," will have a negative impact on me, as opposed to what I now know is this was one of the best things as a learning. I would have paid at a university to learn this stuff, but it's happened. I paid for it, but in a different way. And I should be grateful. And I should be going, this was an amazing situation that happened. There was a great learning outcome. And that's what I should be telling myself, not using the word about, "Oh, I got screwed over," the victim mentality.
Absolutely. My friend has this concept that I often think about where everybody who 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 is part of a painful experience we have is a hired actor. They are part of our reason to be here, some lesson to learn. I had a situation when I first started my business where I got screwed over. It was 4 times in a row with people I hired where absolutely egregious, terrible things happened. And I would talk to my 12-step sponsor at the time, and she said, "It's weird. This is your only issue. It's not making money, it's not finding love, it's not all the things that I used to struggle with. It was this people I was entrusting were screwing me over badly." And I thought it was never going to end. And I would just sort of like look at the universe and go, "What is it you are trying to teach me?" Well, I can't say it was exactly this. I will say one thing I learned from that was I used to have this idea almost that somebody working for me was doing me a favor, sort of like, "Oh, you'll come and do this." And we had very low standards for they're willing to do this. What we offer at my company is an opportunity to be a writer and editor who works from home on their own hours. These jobs don't exist anymore.
Yeah,
Magazines and
yeah.
traditional publishing's gone. Once I actually understood what an amazing opportunity we were providing, and we started to just interview people with that in mind, I now have the best team ever. So it was an incredibly painful. One of the people who screwed me over was a friend of 10 years who tried to sue me and all of this stuff. It was horrible, but it really taught me that my standards, and I think this is often a huge lesson in failure, actually, your standards for yourself are too low. I will say, back when I was single for many, many years, the more I lowered my standards with dating, the worse I got treated. The higher I raised my standards, the better I got treated. And actually, you know what this goes back to? When I worked at People magazine in the 90s, one day you'd be interviewing Kevin Sorbo. You're like, "Who the hell is that?" He played Hercules on TV. He was such an asshole. And his publicist would be completely abusive to you. The next day you're interviewing Tom Cruise. His publicist treats you magnificently because they're operating at an A level. So I
Yeah.
really often think that, yeah, it's sort of like lie down with dogs, you're going to get fleas. Have the highest standards you can possibly have for yourself. And for me, somebody who had very negative self-talk, a lot of negative self-beliefs, I really had to work to get those high standards.
How did you raise them? How did you increase them? What did you do? How did you work on it?
There's this expression, it's like anything I surrendered has claw marks on it. I am a very slow learner. I think I have to be hammered over the head with a lesson over and over before I've heard someone call it God's 2 by 4. If you don't learn a lesson, it's going to get more painful. Still don't learn it? Okay, we're going to give it to you again, more painful. The last time we give it to you, you may want to die. You're going to be decimated. Only then will you be willing to go, okay, fine, show me another way. And in that opening is, I think, where the people, the things, the opportunities at your level come to you.
But you are very successful in your business and career. You're still very young. You've achieved a lot. No, but family, business, very successful business. You've got a ton of things going on with podcasts, books, talks. I know that you love collaborating with people. You go and you enter rooms and you're about, a giving mentality. So you can't do that if you are a slow learner and to get to where you are.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm 53. I didn't start making enough money to really pay my bills without concerns until 46. That's pretty late.
I need to know what skincare routine you have because I thought you were I'm 41. I thought same age as me.
Ah, bless you. Bless you. I will say, sober 23 years, don't drink, don't smoke, don't do drugs. And I come from a long line of very youthful looking, vain women, generations back. We were, Russians who worked in spas kind of thing. So thank you. But yeah, no, I am really, really slow to learn things. I am really stubborn. The thing about self-talk too is this idea that, have you ever read The Untethered Soul?
Yeah.
Great book.
Yeah.
I never had until a couple of months ago. I was going through a very dark period. And this idea that it's just this negative, this horrible, you spend more time with yourself than anybody else. By listening to your negative self-talk, you are basically listening to an a-hole roommate who is just tearing you up all day long. I had an a-hole roommate, a really horrible guy that I lived with, this gay guy I lived with in New York. And I would just be like, listening to that book, I could just go, okay, Zach, F you. So I didn't realize how much that was on my shoulder. I don't think you asked a question. I don't think I answered it, but I did convince you that I am a slow learner, right?
So, okay, so we've talked a little bit about failure, right? We've
Yeah.
touched on it. And, my podcast is about the shortcuts to success. So I mean, through interviewing people, having people on your podcast, doing TED Talks, what do you think would be the secrets to success, if there are any shortcuts?
As evidenced by what I've told you, I didn't do any of them, but I will say it took me so long to understand there's really only one thing a business needs to be successful: people who will hire you. I tried so many businesses without that. And if you want, the shortcut to getting people to hire you is to have amazing relationships with people who can refer clients to you. That's really, and people, marketers always talk about this. Have people know, like, and trust you. And I
Yeah.
see so many people, all three of those people who really screwed me over. I watched them sort of take our trade secrets and go try to start their own companies. And I've watched with some satisfaction them fail because they don't
Yeah.
have that. They think, oh, I see what I have, the SOPs for this company. I see what they did. I can do this. That's not what a business is about. What do you think are the shortcuts to success?
You asking me?
I'm asking you. I know it was a weird transition.
I think, and this comes into kind of me, and I always try to find the meaning and the why behind things. So whether or not it's on myself or I'm working with individuals on investments, I'm always trying to find when they say they want to do something, I'm trying to dig deep into, well, if it didn't work out, what's the difference to you? So I think the individual has to know why they're doing something, especially in the entrepreneur world, because there's so many hurdles, there's so many doors that's going to close in your face, and you've got to be cut out for it. You've got to keep going, and that's where the why comes in. I think you've got to have an identity of the goal. I think you've got to know what you're shooting at. So you've got to know why do you want it, but also where you're heading. And then I think depending on what business, but if it's, we're in the people industry business, right? Which, I think we should be safe from AI, but we never really know. Is AI going to be able to replace deep conversations and make somebody feel listened and understood? I doubt it, but I don't know. But we're in the people industry business, so I think it's about surrounding yourself with really good people that can, because entrepreneurs as well, we tend to be very good at a concentrated topic. And with a business, we need to wear several hats. So it's understanding what you're good at and what you're not good at, and then teaming up with people where you're weak at. Because if you just work on your weaknesses, they just become strong weaknesses. They don't become a strength. So I know
Yeah.
what my weaknesses are. So I try to team up with people that it's their strength. And this is what they teach us in Strategic Coach about your unique ability, which
Yep.
I think is key. Another thing I think as entrepreneurs we struggle at is letting go. We're control freaks by nature. We think that what we do is right. And to really grow a business, we've got to allow other people to almost be a CEO in themselves of that part of the business and
Right.
give them freedom and give them trust and give them the opportunity to fail and
Right.
then extract the learning out, sit down and go, look, okay, this didn't work. If we did it again, what do you think we could do differently? What have you learned from it? What can we extract from this, the key nutrients? And then let's move forward.
Yeah, I love all that. In the first part of what you said, it reminds me of the impact filter, where when you have a project, you fill out what is the worst thing that will happen if I don't do this, which
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
really interesting way to approach something. Tell me more about this, because I was so intrigued by this part of strategic coach that I didn't know about looking at all your failures as successes. Have you been able to, I'm misstating it, but it was something like that. Have you been able to do that with other failures? I know we talked the other time we talked about how you were in an entirely different profession. That's different than the side hustle thing you were talking about. You had an
Yeah. Yeah.
entirely
Yeah.
different profession. Do you consider
Yeah.
that a failure that you went into quote
No,
unquote the wrong profession?
no. That was one of the best things that, and I'm not saying this just 'cause I'm trying to turn it into a positive. I was a criminal defense lawyer. So it allowed me to, at a deeper level, try to help people, how to get them to trust me, to open up, try and support them. So I just would go into my unique ability of how can I help this person, obviously in a legal way.
Right.
Within the law, what can I do to really support and show up for this individual, which is in a horrible situation. What I learned in them 8, 9 years of that, I don't think I could have ever have learned in a college or a course or anything. I mean, it was incredible. So I don't really think there was any. I wish I could say, for the purpose of this conversation, that there was failures in there that I turned into a positive, but it was all pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
I just wanted to. I knew I loved working with individuals. I knew I loved helping them and being a hero to them. But I just unfortunately picked the wrong type of people because criminals don't really appreciate what you do. And I have this thing in me where not that I need to be, said thank you, but I need to feel like I'm actually making a difference. And
Yeah.
criminals, when you see them back in again the next day doing something, the same thing again, it's like, well, I haven't really done anything.
Right.
So I thought, okay, I need to get out of this industry and move to something else where I feel like I can make a difference and help.
I love that, which makes me think I'm very obsessed with this idea of we leave legacies through knowing our who, our what, and our why. Would you say today, who do you serve?
You're asking me some deep questions here.
Ah,
The first thing that would come to my mind is I serve who needs to be helped, who I feel needs to be supported, who I feel like I can be a hero to. I don't look at it because I think if I look at a category and say they're the people that I need to show up and be a hero to, I kind of think I've put that there because that serves me, if that makes sense. I want to go after them type of people because that generates me the most revenue. Yeah, if I look at my last 20 years of work, there's a lot of different. It hasn't just been criminal law and then let's say high net worth individuals and families. There's been a whole host of people that come to me for support where I get the opportunity to show up and do my thing. Whether or not it's friends which are struggling and going through divorces or going friends which are suffering from mental health situations, whether or not it's family which are struggling. For me, it's someone comes and James, I need your help with something. I go into, okay, I don't think, oh, I'm sorry, you're not my category. You're not this selection that I normally, I go, well, what can I do to help?
see, that's interesting. But I would argue that there's nothing wrong with in our work saying, this is who I serve. It's okay if it's high net worth individuals. There's nothing, you're not deriding everybody else. It is okay to have a who, I think. But what you're basically saying is I'm so much more than my work. It's not just about managing money for rich people.
So it's very, I guess the answer is very vague. And I think especially when you are focused on a business, you need to know who is your ideal target market, right? If you're actually going to
Too.
think about the business properly. I think it's a case of showing up where it is needed. I think generally speaking, but yeah, with work, if you're going to put your commercial hat on, you have to be specific. You have to be. You can't just scatter and say, I'll just help everybody when it's commercial. Can I ask you some questions?
Yes. Well, okay, you can, but can I say then what is your what? What do you offer? You can talk about work, you can talk about personally, I'd like you to talk about both.
Work for us is alignment, transparency, exceptional results. It's trying to be the best of what we can be. In the world of investments, the client puts an extreme amount of trust on the individual or the firm. And it's almost one of them interesting industries where the client doesn't really turn around and say, but what are you making out of this? And are you doing this with your money? Like they'll never ask that because
Wow.
it's not something that you can see, right? If you go and take a personal trainer, you can see if the guy trains, you can see if he works out, you can see if he eats burgers every night. You don't need to ask him that. And if he's showing you how to do something, he's showing you because he does it himself. So it gives you that inherent confidence that I trust this guy because he's shown me how to do it and he does it. Someone comes along and says to you, put your money here, we've got nothing to see. We've just got to trust and hope that what they're saying is right.
Right.
So often a lot of people, and it's very, very rare that someone will turn around and I encourage it. Very rare, probably 2 or 3 occasions in 15 years that someone said to me, James, can I ask, are you doing this with your money? Can you
Wow.
show me that you actually do this yourself? And I love it when people ask because part of what we stand for as a firm is that we are purely in alignment with you. We're not going to recommend you to do something with your money that we aren't prepared to do with our own or that we're not doing with our own. And we're practicing what we preach. And there's a lot of big institutions out there that will just be selling something because it's the right thing for them and it's not the right thing for the individual. And that's absolutely not what we're about. We're about transparency, honesty, alignment, and the more that we grow, the more the client grows, and then the more the client grows, the more that we grow, and we show up more, we add more value. That's what it's about, and the team that we're building it has the same culture and the same environment and the same mentality that we show up and we do this with our own money because how can we advise if we don't?
I love that. And it's very similar. The reason I publish a book every year is I need to try out. Publishing is changing so fast. And every single thing we do for clients is something I have done myself and done and been like, oh, that doesn't matter. Let's not focus on that. Oh, reviews really matter. Let's do this. Oh, look at what the Amazon algorithm did. So I love all that. So let me ask you this, and then I promise you can ask me things. What is your why? Why do you do what you do?
This isn't something you can just answer in a sentence because if it is, then it's rehearsed, and we both know that it's not just we're having an open conversation. It's not about just reading off the website or the brochure. But for me, it's always been deep in myself, even from when I knew that I was 8, 9, and 10 to support and help. It's making me feel uncomfortable that I'm talking more about myself than, I mean, this was supposed to be me interviewing you tonight. I like other people to be talking about themselves. I like to make a difference. And whatever it is that I am in, I mean, I found something that I'm passionate about in terms of helping families and individuals, and in particular, female Emiratis, because I feel that, they're a bit of an underdog in the world. I think underdogs have immense power, and I think that they are propelling up to the top in many ways. It's seeing it's for me. It's ultimately feeling like I've touched something with my time, or my knowledge, or my expertise, and seen an uplift in a result, and seeing the other person go, I'm so pleased that I had James or the firm support me on this, and they've made a difference. And for me, that then what taps into all that is the alignment, and the us practicing what we preach, because we can't have that uplift for the client if we don't bring that to the table.
Yeah, I think yeah, you want to up your whys, you want to uplift people, and you want to be appreciated for it. And there is nothing wrong with that second part.
And the making a difference can be in many ways.
Yeah,
It can be through investments. It can be through an impact on the family. It can be from them setting up a new business that they're really passionate about. I mean, I get a big kick out of it when I've had clients which have reached retirement that I've worked with for 10, 15 years. And, I meet them on the day that we retire and they say, James, you've made a massive impact because now I am able to spend 20 years doing what I want to do with my life and my time because you've helped me prepare and get ready, as
yeah.
opposed to I have to go and do a job that I don't want to do because I'm still struggling for cash. And it's just little things like where I know that I've left the things I've touched and had impact on, they're better because I've spent my time and I've helped than before I did.
Love it. Now I'm going to allow you to ask me something.
Okay. So what did you do first? Was it the podcast? Was it the book? Or was it the TED Talks?
Well, I've always written. My only jobs I've ever had were writing jobs at magazines. And so books came first. I wrote my first book in 2005. I mean, that was my first finished book. I had kind of tried before, and it came out in 2007. And then I just kept doing that. I mean, I've done that ever since. Just I started my own company, so I don't have to deal with traditional publishers anymore, thank God. Podcasts, I played around in the podcast playground from about, I would say, I'm not exactly sure, early in the game. And I had a podcast about addiction and recovery. And then I've sort of switched, then I had a big one about book marketing and publishing. And my thing is not that I get bored easily, but when I stop learning from something, I don't want to do it anymore. And one of the problems with podcasting is it just goes on and on and on and on. I had done the book publishing podcast for 3 years. I said, I've talked to every expert that I could talk to. I've learned everything I want to learn. If I'm not passionate about this, I want to do something else, which is why I stopped that one and started this new one about failure. And talking this the being a speaker came because when I started writing my books, I started going on TV very accidentally. I wrote this book about addiction and recovery. It was at the same time that all these it was called Party Girl, all these party girls like Paris Hilton and Britney Spears were making headlines. And so suddenly CNN and Fox News and they're looking for someone to come in and talk about the party girl phenomenon. So my timing was very good. I didn't know that. I just sort of walked in. As a result of being on TV, I started getting asked to do speaking. And so first I spoke at colleges about addiction and recovery. Then I did TEDx, and now I'm doing corporate.
So your first book was on addiction and recovery.
Yes.
Okay. And was that because you'd gone through that?
Yes. When I got sober in 2000, I realized that recovery was absolutely nothing like I had expected it to be. I thought it was a life of just like, I don't know, like creepy men in trench coats talking about the good old days. Like I had no idea that it was the beginning of my life and not the end of my life. And I thought if I could just help one person see that, that that would be amazing. And I so that's what I did. I wrote a funny novel about my recovery, which is now being made into a movie. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
it's been optioned over and over and over again,
Amazing.
but this time it's actually they have the budget and it's allegedly going into production this year. So we'll see.
Presumably you didn't know it was going to be that big of a hit then when you was writing. I mean, what was it for you or was it for the readers, the book? I mean, what was the purpose of it?
The purpose, honestly, I was having fun. I had so much fun writing that first book. I didn't know back then, in your first book, you don't know what you're going to know later. Traditional publishing is so cruel. I didn't know that I was going to get bad reviews. I didn't know any of these things. I just had a lot of fun creating this story. In terms of hit, it is a very weird thing because it was acquired by Harper with I mean, so much press, great advance. That it was good. They wanted to make a reality show about me leading up to the book. Then my publisher, Judith Regan, who was the biggest publisher in the history of publishing, got in a fight with Rupert Murdoch. And was fired, and
Wow.
her division, which was the biggest revenue producer for Harper, dissolved in a day. So this book that had been acquired with so much excitement and, oh, we're going to print 60,000 copies, this is just going to be huge. In a minute, the publishing company was gone and it was dumped onto the marketplace. So the book did not do well. It got so much media attention that people thought it did, but it didn't sell, which is why I'm so obsessed now with forget book sales. You want the best people to read your book. You don't want the masses to read your book because you can't control if it's going to be a hit or not. So, yes, it in terms of Hollywood and movie, it's been a hit, but not the way it should have been.
In terms of the numbers and the
And
and the second book was what?
oh, the second book sucks. That's called Bot. Then I did a book called Reality Matters. Then I did a book called Falling for Me. I did, a bunch of them that our group that we're part of, Brepic, they want us to list our, because so many of us have books in that group. They said, send us the list of your books. And I was like, I'm only sending her 4. There's 4 of my
Mhm.
books that I don't even like them. Why should I tell you to read them if I don't like them?
Do you think that the addiction and writing the book itself has set you up for who you are today?
In what way?
In terms of create, I mean, what do you think are like if you look at your timeline, what do you think are the key things where you say, I am who I am, probably 70% because of that them years or that situation or that book or that result that happened to me or that dark time?
Yeah, I am, I would say, pretty much 100% of who I am because of recovery, because specifically of 12 step, because of what I have learned, everything I know how to do today, whether it's have this conversation, be a mom, have a boyfriend, run a big business, speak on a stage, I learned in 12 step. I didn't learn it in my
Really?
family. Everything. It's crazy.
What are the 12 steps?
Well, so
Can you tell us
that's
quickly?
well, yeah, I mean you're supposed to be anonymous at the level of stress radio and film and all this shit, but yeah, I
Okay.
mean, so it's basically it is the easiest way to summarize it is it is a method for it's AA, it's a method for recovering from addiction and alcoholism, but it is actually a method for living your life. And it has to do with surrendering, like we were talking about,
Hmm.
having faith. It has to do with being accountable. It apologize, making amends when you're wrong, dealing with your resentments and your fears, and helping other people. I mean, that's the simplest way to describe it.
What about things like, gratitude and journaling and things like that?
They that's those aren't official parts of the 12 step, but there's huge parts of what I've learned there. Gratitude lists are a big thing. I've I've published 3 journals. I'm a big journaler. I have a journal that you fill out every night where you answer 10 questions that are all about like what are you grateful for today, what fears came up today, all of those things. So, yeah, I think I attribute everything good in my life to that. And then therapy. I did EMDR, which is trauma therapy, and that was huge.
When you think about the next kind of 3 to 5 years of your life, what is visualizing for you or inspiring you, which is the ultimate drive? Now you've got the business and you've got a lot of things going on. What is it that's kind of pulling you into the future?
I want, of course, to create an amazing life for him, for our son. And I'm very focused on growing the business in ways that are actually useful. I have bright, shiny object syndrome. I get excited about things. I go and expend all this energy and money and things on things that are never going to contribute to my bottom line. The bottom line is not about making money. It's about freedom. It's about we can send our kid to any school. It's about I can take off time to spend with my kid and all of these things. I also am really focused on expanding my speaking career. And part of that is I want to make a bigger impact, but also I would love to be able to go somewhere with corporate speaking and make a lot of money for just a few hours of work because that enables me to spend more time with my son. So I'd like, so growing the business and staying away from the bright, shiny objects and growing my speaking and really continuing to drill down on who we want to work with, because the more people we reject, more people than we accept. It's sort of like, it's a bit ironic. It's like, you want to pay us all this money? Sorry, no. But really, I'm sure that working with the wrong clients, it doesn't matter how much they pay you. If they're the
Yeah,
wrong
yeah, yeah,
ones,
yeah.
there's no amount of
Yeah.
money worth it.
Battery
Does that answer your
trainers, yeah.
question? Well, I've gotten everything. I think this has been amazing. I mean, I got your who, your what, and your why. I got your,
It's more
you
than
know,
last time. You didn't get that last time, so
no, there's so much more that I got. So I feel satiated. I feel badly for my listeners that they've had to listen to me talk so much of the time, but whatever. What
I know what I
else?
was going to ask now. I know what I was going to
Yes.
ask. So just the point about you wanting to do more talking and speaking, about what specifically?
Talk about overcoming epic failures to achieve epic goals. And epic is extraordinary, powerful, impactful, and courageous. And it's all about what we were talking about, which is the reason you're failing is you're shooting too low. Forget SMART goals. Let's come up with epic goals. And I have a workbook and an amazing keynote about that. I talk about how to leave a legacy, which is a talk I'm starting to do, Vistage. I'm going to be doing some Vistage workshops over the next month. And then I have a talk that's all about building authority, and it's building authority through books, through podcasts, through all of these things. So I'm very passionate about talking about all three of them. The goals, the overcoming failure to achieve epic goals is the more corporate talk. And hey, if there's anywhere in Dubai that you think would want to have me come talk, I've always wanted
I'm
to go
sure.
there.
I'm
Always
sure
wanted.
we'll have to get something set up.
Yeah.
Well, lovely, thank you. We've kept it under an hour, which because I think we were nearly an hour just talking about me. So that's good that we've dialed it down
Yes.
and we've shared a bit of airtime.
Very efficient. Well, I think this has been delightful. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you wanted to share, that especially that has to do with failures and successes?
Depending on which day of the week that you talk to me, there'll be probably a slightly different story
Same.
I pull from because it's not rehearsed. It's just me being me.
Yeah.
But no, you've covered it, and I think it's been a good conversation. And I think the part that you're saying about not if you're not aiming high enough with the goal because of either fear of failure or you're not backing yourself or you're just scared, of telling people or aiming too high. I think that in itself is one of our biggest success prohibitors, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's this famous quote from this interview that Steve Jobs gave, like the 70s. He looks really 70-ish. And it's, everything around you that you call life was made up by people no smarter than you. Stop thinking that it's just about what you can see. You can do anything. I mean, do you think that any of these people that have achieved epic things, they're just people?
Yeah.
And they just saw possibilities, and that's it.
I hope from today's episode you found at least one thing inspiring. That's all we need. Please subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel, Prindon Academy. The links are in the description below.